Welcome to Real Talk in ELT, the podcast that talks about the reality of teaching English. We're good to go.
All right.
You ready to go?
I am ready to go.
Okay. Okay, so welcome back to another episode of Real Talk in ELT. I'm here with Abraão, Abraham, Lincoln,
That's right.
Link. I feel like we could get lots of nicknames for you, but welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks
for having me.
Oh, sure. Let me give you a formal introduction before the roosters in the background start going crazy. I'm gonna have to mute myself.
Well, my dogs too. Yeah.
Okay. The
dog neighbors and my dogs. So.
It's gonna get messy, people. It's fine. So Abraão has been a teacher since 2007 and has worked for several language schools and regular schools. He is a school owner, teacher trainer, and everything else in regards to running a business, including making phone calls and peacemaking. Yeah, peacekeeper is like probably a daily routine for you at this point. He is also a CELT P and CELT S tutor and speaking examiner for Cambridge English exams. He holds the CELTA, TESOL, C2 proficiency, all TKT models, the Train the Trainer certificate, and isn't a fan of bragging too much about the accomplishments and qualifications. But we do have to brag a little bit, right? Because like after a while, it's like, we've done some stuff. His newly acquired interests are professional development for teachers and bilingualism. Having started a project for children, it's for very young learners, 3 years old until they're all grown up at high school, Ensino Médio Brasileiro. And what's the name of that project? Just so we...
International Kindergarten.
And I'm going to put it in... Dog woke up. I'm going to put it in the show notes, but that has because you shared it with me, the link. Yeah. It has an Instagram.
It's an Instagram, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to ask you more questions about that. He also has worked as the treasurer of Brás TESOL Mato Grosso do Sul chapter. And finally, he's fluent in Dutch.
Yeah.
Okay, I took one lesson. And it was during my CELTA. It was because I was taking CELTA with Target Language Services. And do you know Bjorn?
I'm not sure, but
and maybe. We had a class with him because he was teaching us, right? Yeah, because it was like teaching teachers the foreign language. Yeah. And all I remember is soda then.
Okay.
Because we were learning drinks.
Oh, right. All right. Okay. Got it.
So I know how to say soda and beer.
Okay.
That's it. So
well, that's good
there's
enough.
My Dutch. Yep. And you get by in French, which you recently realized. Did you go to France and have an experience?
Yeah. Yes.
And loves being able to be a part of the development of people by providing them and helping them in English and all the perks that come along with it. So what happened in France? Do you want to share?
Yeah, sure. Well, a lot of things happened in France.
Okay.
But I did have quite a few experiences with the language, which was amazing, actually. In the beginning, it was kind of, okay, there were people working on, they were a bit rude and they refused to speak to me in French. But once I found the right people to have a few exchanges with, it was pretty good. I had this 20-minute conversation with this guy who was waiting for his wife. She was shopping and my friends were shopping too. So we were sitting there. So we had very, my A2 level French allowed me to have this amazing conversation with him about the weather, about even politics in Brazil. So I realized that you can do a lot with very little language. So yeah, I realized that I can get by in French.
Get by. Yeah, I've heard that. Actually, I have heard that because I've never been to France before, but family members on my husband's side and on my side have been to France, and they said that was kind of the general gist. Like, you have to go in there with your terrible French and try it out, and then sometimes if they're generous enough, they might help you in English, but usually you have to try with your French.
Yeah, you start. Yeah, like bonjour. It depends a lot in the area you are,
Mm-hmm.
of course, because
Yeah.
a lot of people don't speak English actually. And
Where were you?
I was in Paris,
Oh,
but
okay, in Paris.
but
So,
uh,
yeah.
the drivers on
Mm-hmm.
Uber, or some people, they're just not able to speak
In English,
English.
right? Right.
And we were asking for directions to this older lady, and she would give us the directions in French, and we would ask a little bit in English, and then she would just point, and but she wasn't able to speak English,
Yeah.
so I had
Yeah.
to use what I had.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I think that's when it all started. Like, oh, okay. So if I do speak a little bit, they're gonna be more helpful. So that was it.
Yeah, just kind of
It was
meeting
quite a
them in the
good
middle a
experience.
little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It happened to me when we used to go, because I'm originally from Boston, and so we used to go to Montreal and Quebec for my sister's soccer tournaments. And I would tag along, and I remember going to restaurants, and my sister and I actually, we took years of French in school just because it was the second
Yeah.
language, that one of the second languages that was available, and we would go into the restaurants and stuff, and they were not very receptive of my mother and grandmother. But my sister and I had terrible basic high school high school French, and we were able to like ask them some things, and yeah, it worked out a little bit. So even there, it was trying to meet them in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. I think it's the same in every language, maybe.
Okay. Speaking of meeting people in the middle, so let's talk about, because you are in what city,
I am in Santa Fe do Sul.
which is
It's
where?
which is the northeast or west of Sao Paulo. I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay.
uh, well, maybe some people would recognize Ilha Solteira, which is famous for some reason, I don't know, or São José do Rio Preto.
Okay.
Um,
Regardless,
it's
you're in a very small, remote area, correct?
sort of. It's
So.
because sort of. Let me explain something to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When I say Santa Fe do Sul, people will go like, "Okay, where is that? And what is that?"
Exactly.
Like, I've never heard of it before. True, because it's far away from Sao Paulo, the
Right.
capital.
Mm-hmm.
But we have this large area in the countryside of the state. Uh, I am almost in the border with Mato Grosso do Sul, so it's the door to the Midwest of Brazil. So there's a big road coming to this area. So we have small towns all around. So we have these medium-sized towns until we get here. So if you're coming from São Paulo, you're gonna drive up to São Carlos and then São José do Rio Preto, which are larger cities, and then you'll have Votuporanga, Fernandópolis, Jales. I'm sure you've never heard of them, but
I've heard of Jales, actually.
you see, I'm
See?
40 kilometers away from Jales.
Okay.
And I was not born here. I'm originally from Campinas.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in Campinas. That's where I started teaching. And then my parents moved here a few years back. It's a long story, but I'll try to make it short.
Sure.
And then this is actually where I learned part of my English.
Okay.
So I learned English here.
Mm-hmm.
This is where maybe, well, in my teenage years, I was here. So I was consuming English stuff from
Mm-hmm.
here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a millennial, so I'm really into pop music and pop culture and everything that comes with it. And that's where my passion for the language started. Then I had to move back to Campinas, and it was the moment where I had to make decisions. What am I going to do with my life? And that's when I started teaching English for fun, maybe, or I know English.
Dipping your toes into the
Yeah,
yeah, see
yeah,
what is
like,
happening. Uh-huh.
yeah, no commitment or anything. But that's when I was hired by a larger company or school. Are we allowed to say names here?
I mean, you can if you want, yeah.
Yeah, well, I started working for Cultura Inglesa Sao Paulo, and
Mm,
that's when I became a professional ELT
got it.
teacher. So that's when I realized how far I could go in this profession. So I learned a lot with amazing people. I had great inspirations. And then a few years later, my parents decided they would go and live in São José do Rio Preto. So I had to stay in Campinas with my sister. Along the way, lots of things happened. That's when I learned Dutch, and this and that and blah blah blah. So in the end, I decided I was gonna move out of Campinas because I was tired of that life and crazy traffic and all of that. So I decided I would spend a year here in Santa Fe do Sul. I'm just gonna stay there for a year.
How long have you been
And
there?
9 years, 10 years in February. You see?
Yeah.
So I had no idea I would come this far in regards to having a school or training people or managing teachers and running a business. Actually, I had no intention,
Yeah, but I
so
think
it
it's
was pretty
actually,
organic.
yeah, but I think that's actually similar to how things work with a lot of people, because sometimes we get this notion that we have to, if we're going to be teaching foreign languages, that it has to be, usually it's done and done well in the larger cities, and that's where you're going to find, the most opportunities. If you're a language learner or a teacher, the best opportunities in terms of pay, in terms of benefits and things like that. And so, but a lot of people, myself included, I mean, I live in Americana, which is a medium-sized city. It's
Yeah,
like right outside of Campinas, but um I would never move into the cities, to be honest. It's just not my personal lifestyle. So I think that many people can kind of identify with that. That moving out to somewhere where your lifestyle is similar, or kind of what you want your general lifestyle to be. Do
hmm
you find that now that you're there and you've been there for almost a decade, and and you've opened your school and you have teachers, do you find that it's challenging to find, because this was one of my questions for you before, was is it challenging to find qualified professionals? Is it hard to market to smaller regions and maintain your client base, because obviously you have to have client retention in your
yeah.
school, because it's a business, you have to keep the business going. So how do you find it in, again, not a rural remote area, but smaller? I mean, you're working
Yeah,
within a smaller
yeah.
public than Campinas, Sao Paulo, right?
Yes. Well, the thing is, I did some research before I came, of course, but I wasn't willing to stay here. So after a few years, maybe the first 2 years, I started to realize, okay, is this gonna be it? Because when I came here, there were two other English schools already, maybe a teacher. Some people would even go to another city to study English. Um, and I was thinking, okay, so there's a market, there's a public, because you know what I did when I came here? I simply decided that I didn't want to teach on Saturdays. I didn't want to teach after 9 uh, p.m. and I didn't want to teach kids below the age of 10 because I did not want.
Hilarious that you now have projects with 3-year-olds, but okay,
Yeah, yeah.
fair.
So I just decided, well, I wanna rest. I've been doing this, for a while. So those are the things I decided, and to advertise that I was there because I was living with my parents back then. My dad has had this office in his house, which I transformed into a classroom. So what I did was printing out an A4 piece of paper written aulas particulares de inglês and stuck it on the wall in front of my parents' house. People started coming in. So people who were going to travel, people who wanted to improve their English for work somehow, So I started attracting people who didn't want to have classes in a regular English school.
Yeah, okay, so there's still that bias. It's here too. Yeah.
Yeah, like,
That people
yeah,
are
I don't want grammar lessons. I want conversation, or, that kind of, okay, whatever that means. But
I
okay,
love that students are telling the teachers how to teach at this point. Like, I don't want this. Okay. All
okay.
right, fair.
We just go
Hmm.
along, yeah. And then, so in the first semester, I already had 20 students. And then I was like, okay, that's not bad, because I had 20 students spread out into different groups, of course, but 20 students is what I would have in one group when I was teaching, before in the school that I was before. But that meant that if I were to carry on and helping those people go further, I would have to stay longer than a year. And then, the office, the classroom I had wasn't big enough. So my dad thought, okay, so what about renting the house across from, our place? Then you could maybe start, I don't know. And I was like, I'm not sure this is what I want. And then Walter came, I think he was already here in Santa Fe working at another place. And I told him about that. And then I said, I'm not going to be able to do it on my own. I'm going to need help. And then he kind of proposed opening a school together. But then I was like, do I want a partnership with my best friend? Because a business partnership could break up a friendship that's been going on for ages.
Absolutely. Okay, yeah. So let's get into that because there's a lot of people that are like, they want to open businesses, their own businesses, but at the same time, for whatever reasons, financial reasons, confidence reasons, whatever,
Yes.
they think, oh, it might be easier if I open it with someone that I trust, like a friend. But then it gets a little complicated, right?
Yes, exactly. And my family, well, my dad has a business, has had a business for ages. My sister has a business. My family, they have different kinds of businesses, and, all of them agree that having a partner is complicated. It's super complicated, especially when it comes to business. So, I didn't want to ruin my friendship. So I just decided that, opening the business together wouldn't be a good idea at that moment, and also for other reasons. And then, the year after that, when I moved to another place, there was a reception, a bathroom, and a classroom, and it looked like a school actually. Walter came and started working with me. But that's my dad.
Just
So
one? Do you just have one?
two.
Oh, they're gonna get into it. It's fine. Don't
I hope
worry.
not. Uh, so then, we just decided he was going to work at the school. And back then, what I noticed is that Walter really needed, more experience in different places so that he could experiment and see what the ELT world looks like outside of this small town. Of course, he had lived in Canada, he had taken courses in Canada and had a notion, but what does the Brazilian market look like? Right? So that's when I sort of naturally started being a teacher trainer because I had to give him something. But then he was going to leave, and who was going to replace him? So we had another friend who had been living in the US for a while. He went to high school in the US, but all he had was English. You need a lot more than that to teach. So we kind of had,
Thank you for saying that. Okay,
yeah,
so
right?
just because the person has proficiency doesn't mean that they're a teacher. Thank you.
Of
Okay.
course, of course. And then, there was even, a British guy that came here, and even before we started the conversation, I asked him, "So, what's your teaching background?" He said none. So I said, "Okay, so you got to take a TESOL, or, you got to do something before you come, because I just can't simply, accept you into the classroom just because you're." a native speaker of English. That doesn't mean anything. So that's what sort of happened. So creating this culture and this professional development thing, like, okay, you have English, great. This is the maybe the first step. So what else do you need? So that's when I started sort of informally training these people and trying at least to make them aware of what teaching a language is, or how languages are learned and the principles. This is so things in general for me, it started in a very organic way. Even starting the business in an office at my parents' house, and then training teachers. So everyone,
Go
you
ahead.
want to say something?
No, go
No,
ahead.
no.
Finish.
Everyone coming to work with me, what I do is make them language aware, and also aware that knowing English is not enough. You need
Good.
to have a lot more than that,
Yeah.
right? Especially now working with a lot of kids, pedagogy, it has to be in your veins, right? So that's it. Basically, very basically, that's
No, but I
how.
think that the organic nature of it makes sense, because it's similar to how I got into teaching as well. It was super organic. It wasn't something that I had planned on. But then um, we see that even though we're in smaller cities or kind of removed from like the big capital, we always see like the big capitals as like where you have to go and stuff. There are training opportunities, and there are like opportunities for like professional development, and especially now that we see a lot of things online. It's just that
Yeah,
people need to have sometimes a little guidance where they see what am I actually do? What does this mean to be an English teacher? And it doesn't mean that you know the language. You have to there's more to it than that. So
exactly.
yeah, and I think when you start working with it organically, it makes a lot of sense, because it's a lot of trial and error, which I think is the best teacher in our lives, right? So like you
Yes.
probably made a lot of mistakes, as I did as well, and you finally are like, okay, so no, this works for me. I don't know if this works for somebody else, and then you kind of have to feel your way around.
Yeah, and well, knowing the right people, Kali, I think uh, you have to be open to listen to foreign opinions and criticize yourself, and realize that you made mistakes, and somehow try and fix it. Because, okay, I knew where I was coming from. I had already some experience, but of course, I was 10 years, almost 10 years younger than I am today. I didn't have the knowledge I have today. Uh, and actually, I had been teaching for maybe 5 to 6 years. And I was so thankful for the people that I had met, and my trainers, my coaches, and because they taught me a lot, and they were able to look at me and see where I was going before I knew myself. And then when I met these people, like these younger teachers, not younger than me, but in age, but
Yeah, the newer
professional.
generation of teachers that
Yeah.
come in. Yeah.
And I sort of knew where they could go. And
Mm,
one thing you have to be open to is, okay, this person is going to develop, and this person can go anywhere they want. And I have to be willing to give this person away. This is actually what happened with Walter. He was my best friend. He was my best teacher. He was the first teacher I ever trained myself. And I knew he had a lot of potential. He lacked opportunity and experience. And I knew that he would only get those things running away from here. So, okay, he was asking for it, and I had to let him go. And all I could do is, okay, how do I help him? How do I put him through? And I know there's this place he can work at and develop a lot. And I don't know if he's ever gonna come back or not. This is exactly what happened, but I didn't know then, right?
But the thing
So
about it is, it's like the selflessness of doing that, because I think some people do struggle with it, especially business owners and people who are thinking of starting their own schools and having teachers. They want to like build the team, and they want to keep that team. That team is going. I always say that the teachers that I train, the teachers that I work with, if they become better than me, it's because I've done my job. Like that's my
yeah,
job, is to make you better than me. I don't want you to work with me forever. If you never go away, if my students never leave me, it means I'm not doing my job. So we have to.
yeah,
It's like a very transient profession
yes,
that people come in and people leave, and we have to accept that.
yeah,
Um, and so it's like, because I had mentioned like client retention and teacher retention, and we need to keep them for a certain period of time. But at the same time, we have to be able to let these people go,
yeah,
because hopefully, and I don't know if I'm assuming probably this was what happens with you, is that when those people leave, whether they're clients or whether they're your teachers, they are the best marketing that you'll ever have.
exactly. And having all of those teachers trained and having the amazing students we have is what gave me the name I have today. Because people know my name and they know about me. If you, again, I'm not bragging, and I don't like doing that. But if you go to São José do Rio Preto and all of those cities coming to Santa Fe, you in our field, you will probably hear my name, because I had to, a few years ago, knock on people's doors to look for people who were qualified enough to become Cambridge examiners. Because as a preparation center and a place where people take the Cambridge exams, I am an examiner, but I cannot be the examiner of my students. And my teachers cannot be examiners of our own students. So I had to go door to door, asking for people, okay, would you like to become a Cambridge examiner? Because we need people qualified enough. And of course, people want to be Cambridge examiners because this is a big deal. So I met incredible people, including Leandro Zuanazzi. Uh, and that's when my networking sort of started. So I had the opportunity to train teachers at other schools that are in Jales, for example, and Fernandópolis and other places. So yeah, that's how my network, started to actually work. And even though I'm in a very small town, uh, that's how my business started to expand. And I would like to go back to that idea of being in a small town. When
Yes,
I
please.
when I announced at Cultura that I was coming back to Santa Fe, and some people would laugh and ask, "Oh, you're gonna go to one of those towns where there's this little church in the center of the city?" And I was like, "Yeah, sort of. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
common, right?"
Yeah.
But there's this kind of sort of joke that small towns always has a church right in the center of the city,
There is a
and
church in the
then
center of Americana. There's two, actually.
there are churches in the center of every city.
But there's
Fine.
churches on every corner in Brazil. Like, what are you talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah, yeah. But it's sort of this vision of, okay, so you're going to one of those small towns. Maybe what they mean is the only building in the town is the church. I don't know. Uh, and they were like, "Are you sure you're gonna do this? You're you're leaving one of the richest cities in the country, and the opportunities you have." And I was like, "Oh well, I'm just gonna spend a year there." That's what I thought. But then I started to realize that I did some research, and if you look, I looked up, okay, what's the size of the neighborhood that I am right now here in Campinas? I took notes. 47,000 people live in that area, which is Cambuí. Do you know how many schools there are in this area? Well, there were when I did this
Oh
research.
gosh, probably so many. I mean, this is not counting online schools too, right?
Not counting online schools.
Like physical schools.
Physical schools,
Mm-hmm.
only in this area. I'm not talking about Taquarao or other, only talking about Cambuí.
Cambuí, oof, I don't know.
14 English schools. I'm
Okay.
not talking about international or bilingual schools. 14
Okay.
English schools.
Okay.
47,000 people. I live in a city with 33,000 people,
Uh-huh.
and there are other cities around. So I have 33, and then if I count the other cities, there are about 20,000 more. So I'm working with a public of maybe 50 inhabitants. There are 3 English schools here. So I can market.
Doing the math.
You know?
Yeah, right.
So of course, okay, people in Cambuí are much richer than people here, I guess. But then if you research a city, okay, I'm gonna look up Ilhabela, and I am in a touristy town. It's a touristy city.
Oh, okay.
Ilhabela is also a touristy city, and they often compare because they're both estâncias turísticas, right? And they're always comparing. I always see on the media comparing because the amount of money they're supposed to get because they're a touristy town and blah blah blah, and it's the same size. But Ilhabela is much richer for some reason. I don't know, maybe because near Sao Paulo. But they have sort of the same size. And in Ilhabela, there are 16 English schools. 16. So, if you think about it, I don't think I'm in such a small place that I don't have enough people to market to. And who are my potential clients in this town? People who go to school. So, how many schools are there? Public or private, right? So this is when I started to realize that I had a bigger market than I thought in the beginning. And because, of course, there aren't as many qualified people, so you're gonna have to qualify them. But because of the knowledge and the experience that I had, I felt like, okay, I'm not a professional trainer, but I have to train these people. So what do I have to do to become a professional trainer? And because of my status as a Cambridge examiner, I work with this amazing center that provides people with courses, and they help you become a coordinator. So that's when I took the train the trainer course. So I realized that I had been doing a lot of what they teach, but now it's becoming more formal, right? Of course, I made mistakes and I tried to fix them, and but now I look at myself as an actual trainer. Of course, there's a long way that I would like to go. And having trained people from different contexts, different towns. And when we talk about small towns, I had this group of amazing teachers from all over the country. And some of them were in very small towns, and they were, going for it. They were taking courses, and they're like, okay, I'm in this very small town. I have very little opportunities to improve my English or to become a better teacher. But hey, here you are. Especially this post-pandemic situation we have, there are great people providing training courses online, right? And you can make a revolution in the city where you are, even if you're living in this tiny city, wherever you are, in anywhere in the world, literally, right? So it's available. You don't have to travel for miles or kilometers to get, proper training, because it's available online. But then again, who do you know? Who's going to be your guide? Who's going to be the person telling you, okay, so this is the ways here, you can take it if you want to, right? Uh, so basically, this is what I've been doing, right?
I just want you to hear the small town that I'm in. This is
Oh,
pão de
oh, is that the
queijo, egg
car?
car. Oh yeah,
You
no.
see that represents Brazil a
Do you
lot.
see? Do you see? This is what happens, people. Like we get
The
Any-
sound.
no, but it is true. Like what you were saying. I'm gonna have to speak over the egg car, but yeah, what you are saying is that there's a lot of potential in smaller towns. There's a lot of opportunity in smaller towns. It doesn't mean that because the population is so small that there's no opportunity and there's no clients, because based on the statistics, that you had when you were doing your research before,
Yeah.
there is a population, and usually those people, they need to find opportunities, because some of them don't want to stay in that small town, or that they want to go, and go off and
Yes.
do things. So English is a demand no matter where you go. But what you said before, especially when you were talking about Walter, hi Walter, we love you. But that he was missing a little opportunity and experience. And that's
Yeah.
what happens is, like, when they're in when teachers are in small towns, unfortunately, not all people are going to be able to find someone like you that says, okay, go ahead. I've given you what I can give you, and I think you should go in this direction now, because you need to have the, other stuff that I can't offer you right now and currently in this position. So
Hmm.
it's not
Yeah.
that there's no potential or there's no good professionals. It's that we need to help them, maybe go off, and then sometimes they do come back, because Walter
Yeah.
has come back to you, hasn't he?
Yes, he
He
has.
came
He has.
back.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that, and this market of people looking for development and guidance coming from everywhere, this has been grown. I see a lot of people, a lot of experienced teachers becoming teacher trainers, and this is sort of maybe a trend. Of course, just as an EFL teacher, you have to be qualified. Not knowing only English, uh, that's not enough. Being a teacher for a few years is also not enough to become a teacher trainer, and that's something we have to talk about, because okay, the way it happened to me in a very organic way doesn't mean that anyone can become a teacher trainer. This is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, okay, this is what naturally happened to me. That's the demand. Okay, I had this demand, so I had to become a teacher trainer. Uh, but I had to go dive deeper into knowing a lot of stuff before training my team, right? Uh,
Yeah, like
and
you said, it is becoming a trend, and it's a little concerning. I'll just say concerning. I'm going to hedge here. That is slightly concerning, because when you're training people, it's not based on your experience. Your experience factors into it. But when you're training people, you have to be giving them good quality information based on research, based on fact, and we're helping them think through things. So you're
yeah,
also, like, coaching them in a way and trying to get them. So just having experience, like, oh, well, I've been teaching for 10 years, or I've been teaching for 15 years, so now I believe that I can become a teacher trainer. It's like, really? Do you think so? Because you have to have a lot of the background information. And I think there's different levels of teacher trainers too. Like, initial people that become trainers, stumble a lot. They make some mistakes. They have good information. They have a good background in terms of educational background, and they have a lot of experience, but they do make mistakes in
Yeah.
terms of training.
Mhm.
Because I put myself into that category. I do make mistakes when I'm training people. I'm like, that didn't go the way that I planned it to.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they walked away with what I was really intending for them to walk away with.
Yeah.
So just like, novice teachers and experienced teachers, there's also novice trainers and experienced trainers. And so trainers need to recognize that. And I don't think that many of them do. The trend, okay, so the trend is that everybody was like, well, I've hit the 10-year mark, I've hit the 15-year mark, now I'm a teacher trainer. And it's like, no, you're not. Well, you can be for sure, but you're not going to be a great trainer. Nobody's great when they start.
Yeah.
So
And you're helping people create their own set of beliefs, because there's a lot of things to consider when we're talking about beliefs in terms of
it's a big responsibility.
teaching a language,
Yeah.
right? And I noticed that, especially novice teachers, when you tell them something or when you teach them something, they're going to take that as the Bible truth. And it's not, right? So there's a lot of debate still going on in ELT. There's a lot of things still in development, and there's so much we got to know and so much to learn, right? So that's the point when I had this teacher that he was being trained by me, by Walter, by what's his name again? He has a project with Walter. Oh my God.
Bruno.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Bruno.
Bruno, it's fine.
So three of us, we were training this teacher. And of course, we would have different views on some stuff. Walter and I, we have completely different teaching styles. It doesn't mean that we believe in different things, but we have different styles of teaching. And when we add, okay, we're helping this novice teacher with their lesson, and then when we say, I would do this, I would do that, but then because he was told something else by someone else, he will go like, but am I allowed to do this? But why would you not, right? So we have to be really careful when training people and adding our own twist to their lesson, because we got to give them the principle behind it. We got to give them okay, so this is the principle behind it. This is, what do you do with a principle then, right? Are they principles or are they rules?
Okay, so so I feel like there's no rules to teaching, and that's because I think there's universal truths that we have discovered, some universal truths in terms of like anatomy, when we're talking about like the neurosciences and how things are processed in the brain. So I think that there are some universal truths that they have discovered. Obviously, they haven't discovered everything. I think there's some universal truths in terms of, well, there are some techniques and things that seem to be, by and large, beneficial to the majority of the population, but obviously that doesn't mean for all the population. Okay, so there are some things that we can apply more universally. However, I always tell the people that I'm mentoring or training, first of all, I do not have all the answers. I'm going to give you my perspective of how I interpret this information, but I also think that you should look at this person, this person, this person, and I give you a million resources of things that align with my interpretation, but also that are in direct conflict of my interpretation, because that for me is super important. Like, you have to be able to judiciously look at things, concepts, and decide what makes sense to you.
Yes. It's
And
fun.
but it takes so much, but it's hard for people to do that, because one of the things that happens with, I'm sure it happens with you too, like mentoring and teacher training, people come and they're like, okay, well, especially teachers that take anything regarding like anything that I do regarding like lessons or materials, or like, what is the formula? I'm like, there is no formula. Isn't it wonderful? And they're like, I hate you. I'm like, I know, but soon you're going to love me. And that's what it is. They want formulas. They want things that's like, okay, well, these are generally speaking, the stages of a lesson that would follow a certain approach or methodology or something like that. But you can do whatever you want as long as it's justified, and not justified based on your experience. Because that's the thing that I'm going to put quotation marks here, teacher trainers say, like, oh, based on my experience, this is what works. Well, your experience is much different than mine. I teach online. I mean, now I taught in companies. Now I teach online.
Yeah.
That is very different from you in Santa Fe with children.
Yeah.
So if you told me something, and now let's say I was a novice teacher and I'm teaching adult business English people online, and you said, and you were a bad teacher trainer, and you're not, but if you were a bad teacher trainer, you said, well, in my experience, you need to follow this formula, this works. But you teach children and teenagers and like general English and things that are not really related to me. You can't. Yeah.
Yeah, I see your point.
I get really irritated by that, because I do think it is a trend, and it's like teachers. I know that teachers are looking for help, but you have to look for help in places where people have like a very broad perspective of, okay, let me share with you my experience, the things that I know, the resources that I've used to build my own experience, but also some things might be in conflict.
Yes, exactly, because the context, they're so different, they're so broad, and yes, and being in a small town like Santa Fe makes a difference, because it wouldn't. You see my point. It wouldn't make a difference in terms of, okay, how many people can I market to? How do I differentiate from other schools? Okay, that isn't much of a difference when we compare like neighborhoods in a bigger city and a small town. But in terms of teaching, classroom management, dealing with parents, is different, because you are in a smaller community. People know who you are. Not everyone. That's those are fake news, because everybody knows everybody. No, not everybody knows everybody.
I mean, 50,000 people. Nobody knows 50,000 people.
Nobody knows 50,000
right.
people. But you know who your students' parents are. They might add you in social media, so they might follow your daily routine, your daily life.
Right.
And you may be their neighbor. You may know where they live. So that's kind of different. And that's going to impact the way you approach them in the classroom. So when you're training people from places that this is not the reality, how are you going to use your own experience to train those people?
Right.
See my point? So it's got to be based on literature. It's got to be based on what we have when we're training teachers, right?
Right.
So that's it. So it's a teacher teaching here in Santa Fe, in my school, will need something, but I cannot tell them, oh, this is the way things work here. Just go and do it, right? No. This is what we have. This is what literature tells us. These are some guiding principles, and this is how a proper lesson would, be set and be done. But can you change it? Should you change it? Why would you change it? So helping them, think about it, because I have some teachers who teach at other schools, and they come. Okay, their teaching context there is like, okay, so first you do this, this, and that. So go by the book. Do not do anything different. So just follow the script. And then they come here and they're like, can I do this? And I go like, sure, but why would you do it? Can I do that? Absolutely, you can. But do you see why you can do this? So this is how it goes, right? And about training them, right? So meetings, countless meetings. So making it regular, observing them, giving feedback. This is what they need. That's the process, right? So that's the way I do things here, and that's the way I believe it is supposed to be done. And this is what people are looking for, and this is what people can't find. Someone to observe their lesson, give them feedback, and also give them feedback based on something. Like, oh, I don't like the way you did it. No, right?
I found this a lot because I've been working with some teachers, both with a program and outside of a program, and forcing them to do lesson observations. And it's so interesting because, and I actually had another episode of like me, ranting, my typical rants about when teachers watch other teachers, they're hypercritical, right? And it's super hypercritical. And I think that's one thing that we have to like relax on a little bit, because everybody, like you said, has a different style. You and Walter have very different styles, even though you might believe in some of the same things and similar ideas and principles. You just have it because you're different people. And I have quite a different style than other people do, just because I am who I am. But we're very, very critical, and I've noticed, and it's been interesting, and I've been trying to help them get over this barrier that these teachers are watching lessons and observing lessons and having conversations about other teachers, experienced teachers, the things that you can find. If anybody's interested, you find them on YouTube, send me a message, send us a message. We'll send you lessons to watch. But the thing is, they'll watch it and they'll say, well, this is wrong and this is wrong. And I'm like, but why is it wrong? And because we use the word wrong, or like, I didn't like this, or this seems wrong, or this doesn't follow the formula, quote unquote formula. And the one of the reflections is that I try to force them to do, but was it effective? And what evidence do you have that that was actually effective? And that's, and again, this is one of the things with like the teacher training, you have to bring them along. This is not the way that you might have done it, or that you might have prepared the lesson. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter about, you don't matter. Your students do. I mean, you do matter, but your students matter. Like, did they walk away from the lesson with what the aim of the lesson was? And if they did, then you have to rethink, well, I would have done it this way. This person did it a completely different way, and both were effective. Why? What were some of the principles that were underlying in both of those techniques, or were there different principles? And so now I have to think about why I believe one over the other, when maybe I think, I should consider both. That's the type of like reflection that we should be giving our people.
Yeah. The question, when I'm giving feedback to teachers, the question that I ask, the first question that I ask is, did learning take place? Okay. What are the evidences? And what kind of learning took place, right? Was it only linguistic? And then we start from there. So I had experiences, terrible experiences, being observed by teachers, and who would rip me up, like they would destroy me at feedback. And also great experience like non-judgmental, and I knew I had made even English mistakes, and they wouldn't, because that was not the focus of the observation. And that's also something we have to consider and make teachers aware of. Okay, I'll be observing you today, and my focus is this. My focus is, I don't know, classroom management, or patterns of interaction, or language presentation, or right. So whatever happened outside of that ratio or what I was looking for doesn't matter. I was looking for this, and this is what I saw, and this. So being able to, there's so much happening in a lesson, right? So I have to go there with a focus, with an observation focus, and the observee and the observer need to be aware of that. Yes.
Yeah, we have to set priorities. I mean, Lord, we make so many decisions and so much happens in a class, so that it's like you have to prioritize. Okay, this is the priority now, because maybe there's been issues with it, or maybe it's the topic of discussion recently, or whatever. But yeah, it can't be. Let me give you the list of all the things that I saw that I didn't like. I mean, it's just overwhelming. It's too much.
Yes.
The person's probably not going to change.
What happens to a person? What happens to a learner when we correct all of their mistakes, right? So error correction, guys. So it's just applying that to your teacher, to the teacher you're training, right? So if you keep correcting them all the time, or correct their every mistake in the lesson, they're gonna quit.
And also highlighting the things. I mean, we always focus on the negatives, but we also have to highlight the things that people are doing well, why they're doing them well, so that we try to convince them to continue doing those things really well, not to forget and focus only on the things that we're trying to make better.
Yes. Yeah. We got to boost their confidence, not kill it.
Oh God, yeah. It's brutal though. It's some people do really kill other people's confidence. It's like, oof, gosh. I mean, yeah. But at the end of the day, I think the perspective, we have very similar perspectives of, did learning happen? Did the students benefit from the lesson? How did they benefit from the lesson? How do you know? And move on from there. But just prioritizing things.
Yes, exactly.
Beautiful.
All right.
Anything else that you want to add? Last bits of knowledge or nuggets or good wishes?
There's so much we can talk about, right? But I think, I just gotta thank you for the opportunity of being here and getting invited to this.
Sure, of course.
I love watching the videos, and a lot of the people you interviewed, I know some of them online from a distance. And maybe I would like to propose talking about friendship in ELT and having Walter with us, because he's my best friend. And we've been friends for, I guess, 20 years. Oh my God. And it's interesting to have people and trust in working with you or not, right? And how that impacts your career, and how sort of build relationships inside the community. Because one of your videos, when you say are teachers their own enemies, I think that's a good thing to talk about. Because quite a few times I felt out of place when going to conferences, and sort of that kind of feeling like, that's my competitor right there. I don't want to talk to
I had this conversation. Yeah, it's a weird feeling. I had this conversation. If I'm incorrect, I apologize. But I had this conversation, I think, with it was a crew. Me, Gabriela Freunds,
I don't know her.
Isabella Badra, Carla Delia, Ricardo Bruns, and Ricardo Barros. We were all sitting around and I think we were eating lunch. And we said this, we are not competing with anybody. I'm not competing with any of you, really, because there's so many learners, there's so many opportunities. Like, I'm not in competition with anybody. So if anybody comes to me and is like, oh, well, Fulano, okay, great, let Fulano do whatever they want to do. I'm not really interested in that. And the thing about the friendship is, because I met you because of Walter, and I'm super happy that he said, oh, you should talk to, I was like, oh, great, okay, another friend to add to the collection. Because the thing about it is there really is no competition. And the more that we compete with each other, the worse it gets online, the worse it gets in schools, the more disenchanted people become and they start quitting the profession. I mean, it shouldn't be like that at all.
Even with my market competitors, I sort of developed this vision, like, okay, if I don't have the right fit for that student, who am I going to send them to, right? And I'm not able to get to teach all of the people that I have in my town, right, in my area. I'm only one person, right? My school is only one school. So I sort of built this friendship with the other school owners that we have in the city. But I feel like, okay, they're sort of fighting with each other. And I'm in the middle, like looking at them fight and thinking, wow, this is stupid. And I feel like in the ELT market, that happens a lot in grander scales. Like, I see bigger schools like competing with each other and poking at each other when they're market, or I say, okay, I don't want to be part of that. But some people do, apparently. And I think we got to bring something more positive to our field. And talking about those friendships, those crews that we have, or, having a very good friend. I'm really good friends with Rodrigo Sigoli, too. We used to work together.
Rodrigo, yes.
Oh, and it's a real friendship. It's like, oh, can you help me out with something, or can you just like very recently he had asked me for a candidate. He's gonna have a mock test, a speaking mock test, and he doesn't have another student with the level. So I asked around in the school and I found someone. So it's something very little, but it adds a lot to the experience and to our everyday experience as teachers and business owners and whatever we do in the field. So maybe that's a
yes. Maybe we can. Well, I'll get you, Walter, on. We can have like a whole chat where Rodrigo would come on too. Yeah, I think it's a good point too, and it's a good point to kind of, well, we can say to leave on because we've been here for an hour. But it is a good point that, listen, people, that there's no competition really. I know that the people that I bring on the show, I try to bring people that I trust and that are, usually it's because I've been recommended, like, oh, you should talk to this person, you should talk to that person, because it's people that I believe if you reach out to anyone that comes onto my show, I'm 99% sure that person is just going to help you. Yeah. And if they can't help you, they're going to say, "Ooh, I know somebody that is really going to help you. Please reach out to them." And that's the whole thing, is just building a community, not building a panela. Because this has been, and since I got into opened my eyes to like Brazilian ELT, probably like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, I was like, "Ooh, goodness." Like, it seems as if there's some still existing little panelas, and we just kind of, it doesn't need to be like that. We can all kind of help each other out. And I know that I send people, when people come to me, I tell them, I don't work with that specifically, but I know someone who does. Yeah. And I just send people away. And even if it's like conflict in my schedule, like I don't have time at the time that's available for you. So let me send you to a friend that has a school. They have a team of teachers. They'll be better able to work with your agenda, because my agenda is complicated. Your schedule is complicated. So I'm just going to send you to somebody that I trust. And and then this is reciprocal, because when I send, 3 or 4 people to a friend that has a school, usually they're like, oh my God, thank you so much. And then the person is like, I have this person, I can't really teach them anymore because they've gone and now they're looking for this. Would you be interested? I mean, this is how it works in the market. So friendships are really important, and just knowing that we're not competing against each other. I know it seems like it, but really
it seems like it, and it feels weird, and I don't know. I don't like that confrontational and that competition kind of thing. Even though I'm a business owner, it doesn't mean I have to be like that. So, and I guess that's sort of my style. Maybe.
Well, you believe in your product. You believe in your teachers.
Yeah.
You know what you do.
That's all you.
And accepting the fact that your ideal student, it has one profile, and maybe there's a student with a different profile that doesn't fit your, let's say, school model. So give them to a competitor.
Yeah.
Because, hey, they're going to be grateful for the recommendation. If they learn the language, fantastic.
Yes. And possibly that will come back.
Of course it will.
In a way or another.
I believe in karma.
There we go. Yes. All right. So
oh my goodness.
My proposal: friendship in ELT, and of course, bilingualism is a big thing.
Oh, I have to get a panel together. I was talking to you about it, but then I messaged some other people. I'm going to try and get a panel of people together so we can talk about bilingualism, because I think it's, with the new changes, hopefully the new changes in the law coming up, it's going to be quite the hot topic, and how to address some key aspects of that. So don't worry, he'll be back, people. He's coming back.
We
all right. Okay, well, I want to thank you so much. It's been wonderful chatting with you, and you're welcome back. I mean, actually, you're not welcome back. Like I have a couple already. Like we're just going to make a list of what you've signed up for.
Okay. All right. I'm willing to go along. So thank you so very, very much.
Oh, you're so welcome.
It's really nice, and it's amazing to have this conversation and to spread out the message. And if I can help anyone living in a small or bigger town, I'm here open for conversations and chats. And I will be in the Breast Diesel event in 2 weeks, I guess.
November. Okay.
Yeah, in November. So if there are any people, I don't think this is going to be out till then.
I can try and force it out. I'll edit quickly.
Yeah. I would just, extend the invitation to come up and talk to me, and we can talk about anything we have talked here and anything I promised to talk about.
Sure. Yeah, and I'll put all your contact information for Instagram or LinkedIn, whatever you prefer, and also for your school and the project that you have with the little ones.
The little ones. They're so cute.
Okay, well, that's it for us. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you later. Ready to join the conversation? Head on over to Instagram at Kelly Pennington ELT and send me a message. That's it for now. Take care of yourself, your health, your vibe, and your tribe. Until next time.